So number one, write an equation for the statement A varies directly with B and inversely with C. So for any type of variation, okay, you have to make sure that you have the constant K in there, and that's something I noticed that a few of you forgot. So if it's A varies, that means A equals. Anytime you have the variation, you have to have the constant K. Okay, so directly with B means you multiply. Inversely means you divide. Okay, so because your exam is all multiple choice, there's probably going to be a choice in there where it's just A equals B over C. That wouldn't be correct. So you have to put your constant of K in there. Okay, so this is your equation. Alright, now, I know for number two, the situation in here about the pressure and the temperature is something that you covered in science class. The one that is on your exam is not going to be about pressure and temperature. Okay, so you do have to know the process. So if all you know is the scientific way to do it, you also have to know the mathematical way of how to set up an equation and find K. So it says the pressure P of a gas varies inversely. Okay, so inversely with V, that means divided by V goes on the bottom, and then directly with the temperature T. So this is your equation. We have to solve that equation for K given this information. So it says the pressure is the 1.6 atmospheres. You have this volume, 14, and the temperature of 280 kelvins. So if you substitute in 1.6 for the pressure, 280 for the temperature, and 14 for the volume, then you can solve this for K. So what would you do first to solve for K?
Multiply 14 by 1.6.
Yes, multiply both sides by 14. That is going to cancel out the 14s on this side, and then 14 times 1.6 will be 22.4. Okay, and then you have 280 times K. So you're just going to divide both sides by 280. So you should get your K value is 0.08. That's what you're going to use in your equation to solve for the other set of conditions that are given. Okay, so it's P equals 0.08 T over V. And then it says the gas is cooled to a temperature of 250. So we're going to plug in 250 for T. And then the container is 16 liters, so that's the volume. And you will have your calculator for the entire exam, so you can do the 0.08 times 250 divided by 16, you'll get 0.125. The units for this was the ATM, atmospheres. Okay, and that is your pressure. Okay, so be able to solve for K, okay, and then under the other set of conditions, you solve for P. Alright, number 3, you are subtracting. Whether you are adding or subtracting, what do you have to have? When you're adding or subtracting, yeah, you have to have a common denominator. So what you want to do is factor the denominator. This one you can't factor, but that one you can factor into x plus 4 times x minus 4. So once you have that, you can see if you already have x plus 4, to get the LCD, you have to multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 4. Then you would have a common denominator. When I did this, I put the minus here, and then I multiplied these two together. So x plus 6 times x plus 4 is x squared plus 2x minus 24. And then the minus, you have to make sure that you distribute. So I just took the numerators, distributed the negative to everything inside. So minus x squared minus 2x plus 24. And then I combine my like terms. Okay, so this is 2x squared minus x squared, which is x squared. And then I have negative 2x negative 48 plus 24 is negative 24. Okay, and then in the denominator, you still have the x plus 4 times x minus 4. Alright, now once you get there, you do want to try to factor this again. Is the numerator factorable? Can you factor this numerator? Yes. Okay, so x and x, and then what multiplies to negative 24 but adds to negative 2? Negative 6 and positive 4. So, when you divide something by itself, you can cancel them out because you're going to get 1. So your expression is x minus 6 over x minus 4. Now, it also says you have to find the x values for which it's undefined. Remember that when you have a denominator, that cannot be 0. So in this case, x cannot be negative 4 or 4. You have to make sure you include both of them. Okay, so there might be a distractor answer that only has x can't be 4, but remember, before you can cancel it out, you have to make sure that it's not undefined. Okay, so this one you should have x can't be negative 4 and also the 4. Alright, in my directions I told you guys that when you're dividing, we're not going to have to identify the values for which x is undefined. It's only if you're adding or subtracting you will do that. Now if you're dividing, remember, that's your keep, change, split. You're dividing your fractions, so we're going to factor. So the top is x minus 4 times x plus 2. The denominator is x minus 5 times x minus 4 times 2x plus 3 times x minus 5. And then 3x plus, 3x, this is minus 4. 3x minus 4 and x plus 2. How did the factoring go? Good? Like I said, this one is a minus. Okay, so then now I can cancel. If they're in the same fraction, that's fine. If one's on the top and one's on the bottom, that's when you can cancel. And then the x plus 2 and the x plus 2. So you are left with 2x plus 3 in the numerator, 3x minus 4 in the denominator. And then like I said, you don't have to identify where it's undefined. Alright, and then number 5, find the solution set for the equation. You are just going to find the solution. Again, you have to factor. So the numerator is the difference of 2 squares. It'll be x plus 8 times x minus 8. That does cancel out, x plus 8 and x plus 8. So you are left with x minus 8 equals negative 4. All you need to do to solve is add 8 to both sides. So x equals 4 is your solution. Okay, so 4 would be your solution set there. Okay, so it's just 4. Alright, and then the only thing you have to watch out for is what could x not be? What would be the only thing that would make this extraneous? Yeah, x can't be negative 8. As long as it's not negative 8, you're fine. Okay, if it was negative 8, then what would your answer be? No. Just no solution.
Oh.
Yeah, like that's what the answer would say, your answer choice. Yep. Okay, so 6 is adding. It's very similar to number 3 where you have to start by factoring, okay, the denominators. Okay, you're not factoring anything in the numerator. And then once you see what this is missing, you multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 3. This will get you the LCD. Okay, so we do have to FOIL these two. So when you FOIL x plus 3 times x plus 9, you get x squared plus 12x plus 27. Okay, that's that numerator. Then you have, because you're adding, you're just gonna go ahead and do the minus 8x minus 39. Combine your like terms. You have the 12x and the negative 8. You have the 27 and the negative 39. And that is your numerator. So x squared plus 4x minus 12. And then that is over the LCD, x plus 3, x minus 2. Just like we did before, we are going to factor. So we're going to see if this factors. Is there anything that multiplies to negative 12 that adds to 4? Yes, positive 6, negative 2. And then the x minus 2's cancel. So your final answer is x plus 6 over x plus 3. And then you have to find the values for which x is undefined. So you have to do that before you cancel. We know that the denominator can't be 0. So that means x can't be, what would make this 0 if you plugged in what? Negative 3. And for this one, if you plugged in 2, that's what would make it 0. So those are the restrictions on x. Can't be negative 3 or 2. Okay, so always before you cancel them out there. Okay, and that will only be on the addition and subtraction. Okay, for number 7, this is one of the ones I got the most questions about with the asymptotes. Okay, this was in lesson 5.4. When you are finding the vertical asymptotes, all you have to do is set the denominator equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay, you don't have to worry about doing that with the numerator. The numerator set equal to 0, when you solve that, it would be the x-intercepts. And I know that some of you tried to do that. It wasn't factorable, but remember, it's a quadratic. So if you did want to find the x-intercepts, what are other methods we know to solve a quadratic equation? Yeah, you can use that. You don't have to, though. You won't need it for this, okay? So you have x and x minus 3 plus 2 will multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 1. So if I solve, I'm going to get x equals 3 and x equals negative 2. Okay? Those are your vertical asymptotes. The horizontal asymptotes are found by using your special rules and comparing the degrees. So if the degrees are equal, then remember you just set up your y equals the leading coefficient over the leading coefficient. So if I look at my leading coefficients here, this is 2, this is 1. Okay, so 2 over 1 is just what? 2, so y equals 2. Okay, now it says we're going to draw a sketch of the graph, and really that is all we're doing, is we're going to draw a sketch. You will have your calculator for the exam, so you can plug this in, but the mistake that people make when plugging it in is they forget to put parentheses around the numerator and the denominator. So you have to put this in parentheses. The 2x squared plus x minus 16 in parentheses divided by, and then the denominator goes in parentheses. X squared minus x minus 6. Okay, then you can graph. Okay, and then because it's multiple choice, you'll just have to be able to recognize where that is. So we have one branch that looks like this. It is okay that you have another branch that is here, and then we have another branch that is here. Okay, so this is a rough sketch. X is negative 2 is one of your asymptotes. X equals 3 is another one of the asymptotes. So just make sure that those line up on your graph. You can see on mine, if I go 1, 2, 3, okay, there is a space there at 3. There is a space there at negative 2. Okay, 2 of the branches do follow the horizontal asymptote, which is at y equals 2, but it's okay that that one crosses. Okay, so that is your sketch of your graph. Okay, questions for me about that one? Alright. So 8 is identifying all of the asymptotes. There won't be any graph there, so you will have to know how to find them. Okay, so the vertical asymptotes, again, you just take the denominator and you set it equal to 0. Okay, now for this one, you have to be able to factor the 4x squared plus 11x plus 3. So there are two possibilities. You can start with 2x and 2x, or you can start with 4x and x. So you have to get the middle to add up to 11. So I know if I put a plus 3 here, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 1 is 11. So 4x times x is 4x squared, negative 1 plus 12 is 11x, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, and then when I solve for each of these, I have 1/4 and negative 3. Okay, so x equals 1/4, x equals negative 3. Those are your vertical asymptotes. Okay, and then again, your horizontal ones, you look at your degree. So again, the degree, this is x squared, this is x squared, the degree for both is 2. Okay, so if the degrees are equal, you put the alco over the alco. Okay, so this would be 1/4. So leading coefficient over the leading coefficient. Alright. And then for 9, when you are given a piecewise function, this we did in 6.3, you are going to have to figure out which one you plug it into for x equals negative 2, for x equals 0, and x equals 5. So you have to use these to help you. So if x is less than or equal to 0, you're using this function. This is where you're going to plug in negative 2 and 0. The 5, you have to use the top function because that's where x is greater than 0. Okay, so if I plug in negative 2, I have 3 times negative 2 plus 5, 3 times 0 plus 5, negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1, 0 plus 5 is 5. The answer will be written like this. F of negative 2 equals negative 1, f of 0 equals 5, and then f of 5 equals, you plug in 5, what's 5 plus 5? 10. So you do 5, 5 over 10. Alright, any questions for me on that one? The piecewise? Okay, so also in chapter 6 and 6.5, we did what's called the composition of functions. So this is f of g of x. That means you plug g of x into f of x. So if you're doing f of g of x, you are doing f of this function. So we're going to plug 2x minus 4 into this equation. So 2x squared plus 3, and then this is where you plug in the other equation. Now you do have to follow your order of operations.